Hi everybody, Mark DeJesus here, and wanted to share a few things to encourage you today. And one of the things that's been on my heart is to really encourage people in the area of loneliness. There is this theme that's going on in people's lives where in your battles, you feel that you're all alone in this. You feel that you're all alone and that there's not much help around you. You feel alone in the sense of like this battle that I'm going through is something only I'm going through and nobody else is kind of going through the same thing. So I can't relate. I can't find any connection. And it's a huge lie right now because I'm in a season where I'm doing a lot of my work behind the scenes with people, one-on-ones, behind closed doors, working through deep, difficult issues, rolling up my sleeves and helping people work through being empowered on issues of the heart. And I sit back and I go, man, if we could all just break through some of the shame barriers that we have regarding our struggles, man, we could get a lot of work done. But isn't it interesting that in the Garden of Eden, the thing that really hits Adam and Eve is that shame. And it hits everyone to some degree in their battles because we struggle with feeling like we're weak, we're flawed, we have sin issues, we have struggles, we have areas of failures or weaknesses, all these kinds of things that we're so afraid. And the fear factor teams up with shame to keep us in hiding. So I hope you've gotten a copy of this book, I Will Not Fear, because we need to come to terms with how much the fear factor is influencing our life. And I help you to see that, but also help you how you can begin facing it out of my own story and out of the years of helping other people walk through this stuff. Because everybody's got areas of fear they need to deal with. That's the thing that is so amazing about this. But I run into countless people who struggle with a sense of loneliness and isolation and shame and feeling like, I'm the only one going through this kind of thing. When it comes to the area of, for instance, anxiety or panic attacks or depression, you can feel so isolated in your battles thinking, oh my goodness, if only people knew what's wrong with me. No one else seems to have these battles. And that's what makes your heart issue struggles even worse. You've already got the battle, but now on top of it all, you got shame and condemnation for even having the battle. It's the enemy's double-barrel shotgun. It's like one bullet hits you with a battle that you're facing, and there's a second bullet that comes right alongside of it that says, you got this battle, and what's the matter with you that you even have that battle? So we hide. We constantly hide. And our current culture of communication contributes to this because there's so much relationship around social media. So in social media, there is a culture of presenting your best side, right? Where it's just only the good things, or every once in a while you have somebody that just spews out their pain. But it's not the best context for us to be able to truly share with each other because you're only reading words, you're not getting the full context. Then we're comparing ourselves with other people. So you're scrolling through your feed and you're in constant comparison. My life is not like theirs. My life isn't as good as theirs. Even though we know in our heads it's not true, but in our hearts we're struggling to land into that. So this leaves room for faulty assumptions in our relationships. And in our go, 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 fast, 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 we can be driven further into a sense of isolation over our battles. And years ago, if you know my testimony of anxiety, panic attacks, and so forth, that was one of the things that was a cloud over me. It's like, man, if people only knew what I struggle with. And it led me to a point that as I started to get free, as I started to turn the wheels and start to get some really good precepts and understanding how to get freedom, one of the things I began to do is I began to share my story. I had opportunities to share with people. And there's a couple things that happened. Number one, people are like, this pastor dude has these struggles like I do? No way. And then there was a sense of relief that they had of, wow, this helps me because I can relate. And I get sometimes concerned about how we communicate as Christians in our platforms in a way that makes it look like we don't have any battles or we don't have any struggles. And I think there's a new level of authenticity that needs to happen. Not that we need to back the truck up and share our problems with everybody, but that there becomes a more authentic expression of what we're going through, so that when we talk to others, we're not just dismissive. Jesus paid the price for that, so get over it. Just have more faith. You just need to trust God. We slap people with a lot of stuff, and we can become very dismissive of recognizing people are going in the trenches through some real stuff. And it's not to feed a pity party. It's not to feed a victim culture. But it's to help us realize that we all have stuff we're going through. There's levels of suffering everyone's facing. And what we need is encouragement and tools. And we need people that will not shame us, but will encourage and empower us and show us a powerful love demonstration to go to the next level, to believe in us, in our lives and our journey. But man, when I shared my story, it broke a level of shame off of me to go, wow, this fear has been keeping me in an isolation, because the enemy knows if he can isolate you in your battle, the sniper comes out. But if you're in the community of faith, the wagons get circled and there's power in that communion connection. And so over and over again, as I'm working with people, I'm going, man, if I could get all these people in a room together, and maybe someday I will be able to, if I get them all in the room together, they're literally saying the same things. They're literally expressing the same battlegrounds. But they all feel so alone. They all feel so isolated. And there's various reasons for that I could get into. But what I want to encourage you today is that everyone has areas that they're battling and loneliness that comes out of it. Because it's not just the battle, there's a darkness that wants to come over that battle, where you feel frustrated, alone, stuck. But can we start really living as a culture where we can truly express everyone's got issues, everyone's got battles? Can we stop acting like we don't have things we're going through? Because too often in Christianity, we talk to each other in a way that creates a prideful superiority. It's like we're the Pharisees looking down on people, and we're not realizing our own rotten areas that need God's touch. Can we give permission to realize it's okay to be weak? It's okay that you're going through something that's difficult. One of the biggest things that I've been encouraging people in my coaching sessions is allowing themselves to look in the mirror, to look at themselves and to say, it's okay that I'm not okay right now. Because for so many, it's unacceptable that you're weak. It's unacceptable that you're vulnerable. It's unacceptable that you've got an anxiety issue or an OCD issue, or you're going through depression, or you're grieving, or you're having mood issues, or you've got a physical ailment, or you've got this thing in your marriage. It's not acceptable. And all it does is create a yoke of pressure, create a yoke of burden. And Jesus says, my burden's easy, my burden's light. I know what you're going through. I'm not panicking about it. I'm not overreacting about it. I want to walk with you through this. Will you accept my journey to walk with you through this thing you're going through? But we can't hear that if it's not okay that we're not okay. If we're beating ourselves up for being where we are. Because that never produces anything productive. It's like the person who wants to lose weight and they look in the mirror and go, oh, I'm such a fat slob, and how did I get here? This is terrible. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go to the gym. And they go to the gym and they work themselves out and they work hard and all these things, right? And then weeks and months later, they're not losing weight, right? Because they're actually not investing themselves in the real reason why they may be overweight. Maybe it's because you're not sleeping well at night. And so maybe it's because of stress in your life, and it's creating too much cortisol, and it's creating just bloat and retaining of fat. But you're too busy beating yourself up to hear what love is saying, to hear what God is saying, to hear His patience and His kindness speaking to you what the next thing is. So I've been doing a lot of work in helping restore that sense of love in people's lives so that then they can see clearly and stop living out of this condemning panic where we're striving and trying all these things, and it's like we're doing spiritual calisthenics, this, and I'll do this, and we're just doing a lot of motions and a lot of stuff, and we're not at rest, because God's got a laser-focused thing He's wanting to work in your life. But we've got to have compassion for ourselves. We've got to look at ourselves through the lens of love. Otherwise, we're going to jump to beat ourselves up. So statements like, it's okay that I'm not okay right now. I'm going to figure this out and process. God's going to work with me, and I'm going to overcome and realize God, every person God uses greatly, often has great fears they had to face. Great seasons of valleys that didn't seem like they were ever going to end. But they held on to God's story for their life, of what He is able to do. And I think that what we need to realize is that you're in some kind of valley, and the person next to you, they're in a different kind of valley. Just not maybe the same one as you, but the person next to them is probably the same as you. But the enemy just keeps us all isolated in this stuff. So can we let go of the shame? Give yourself permission for process. It's going to take some time. And let God meet you in this season so you can begin to process through the theme that He's working in your life. What I thought I'd do is I'd like to just read an excerpt from the book, I Will Not Fear, which is in the chapter that's called You Are Not Alone. I just want to read this to you as an encouragement. One of the worst feelings, on top of the torment that fear brings, is a sense of loneliness that comes along with it, where we feel disconnected from love and safety. In my worst days of debilitating anxiety, I felt like I was watching the world through a plexiglass window. I could see it, but I could not participate and feel engaged. It's like I was watching everyone go on without me. The fear and lack of peace made me feel cut off from the rest of the world, isolated in my distress. If you're not currently going through it, look around. Scores of people are neck deep in it. What made these feelings worse was the shame I felt. What is wrong with me? Why can't I get it together? When is this ever going to end? These hopeless thoughts led me into spirals of depression. I remember days where I did not want to live anymore. The torment seemed unending, and it appeared as though everyone else was going on with their life just fine. I believed that I was the only one going through these kind of battles. As I began to learn about healing of the heart and overcoming fear-based struggles, I started to share my story of overcoming with others in my church and community. At the time, I was a staff pastor at a fairly large church. As I began to reveal more of what I was going through, people's mouths dropped for two reasons. The first reason is they couldn't believe someone who was a pastor had these kind of struggles. Some may have sat back in judgment, but everyone I talked to was relieved to know that spiritual leaders wrestle with the same issues they do. Secondly, many of them responded by saying, "Yes, Mark, I've had the very same battles that you're talking about." People started pulling me aside, requesting help for themselves, wanting insight and details about what was helping me. The more I shared my story, the more I felt shame being broken off of me. Not only was I helping others, I clearly saw that I was not alone in this battle. Masses of people were struggling with the same kind of fear-based issues. As time went along, my heart began to grieve when I observed that the majority of the church was gripped with fear, anxiety, stress, and worry. Up until this point, everyone was just good at hiding. As I shared my story and my journey, more and more people came out of the shadows to realize they could get free as well. They didn't have to hide anymore. Take a moment and look around at the relationships in your life. Consider the people you are connected to. Maybe you're in a coffee shop right now or sitting at an airport. Pause for a moment to consider what others are going through. Allow me to let you in on a little secret. Everyone around has a cluster of fears they struggle with in their life. Some of them are right on the surface, tormenting them at every turn. Yet many are suppressed, way down deep, and are creating lots of tension in their life. Most are fighting with everything they've got, but they haven't received the tools they need. Others are just wishing it would all go away. Well, hopefully by now, if you've read this book or any of my materials, you can at least admit you have some fears you need to deal with in your life. It would help so many if we'd put down our masks and recognize that fear doesn't discriminate. It wants to work on anyone and everyone. So let's stop playing the games that we have it all together. Can we vulnerably admit we all have to do business with fear? Some people manifest it more outwardly, but this doesn't mean they are weaker or less intelligent. Often those who have very obvious struggles with anxiousness, panic, and phobias have very sensitive hearts, meaning they know how to connect with life and engage it with great emotion. This is a great trait, but one the enemy has attacked to make one vulnerable to hordes of fear. So I read all that to just remind us that, number one, you're not alone. And I just want to pray right now that if you're struggling with loneliness, number one, that you would feel a breaking off right now of shame, guilt, self-contempt, beating yourself up kind of mindsets, self-anger that don't allow you to experience the patience and kindness that you need. You need love right now. You need love to look at your situation and go, it's okay that you're not okay. And let God's love speak to what the next step is. And I even pray that God would open doors for you to have new relationships open up. Now, those tight, close ones don't happen overnight. They take seasons and seasons to build up. But I'm praying that God would give you opportunities to have some interactions with people that can refresh your heart and can give you references for the freedom that's available. And I pray that you'd even use what you're going through as an opportunity to share with others so that we can authentically be real in our journey, not to be real just to be real. To be real, to be redemptive, to encourage and edify each other, to remind each other that, you know what? We're going through stuff not because of what's wrong with us. We're going through stuff because these battles are places where God can meet us in ways we've never experienced before. And we can come through it and come out of it with a story. And your story doesn't have to begin when you get out of it. Your story can begin now. What's the story that you're listening to over your journey? What's the narrative? If the narrative is beating yourself up, I want to encourage you to come out of it. If the narrative is this will never end, I want you to come out of it. If the narrative is I've tried everything or I'm just all alone, the host of heaven is surrounding you right now. I pray you'd be able to connect to that. And I pray that you'd get a picture snapshot that your overcoming journey is actually going to be the very thing you're going to feed others with. It will be your ministry. What God has done in your life will be the very thing that's utilized to bless others. So I wanted to share this. I pray that it's an encouragement to your life, and I pray that it would just help you to get a clearer picture of what's available for the next stage of you in this journey. I love you guys. God bless you. You can find me at markdejesus.com. And I pray this encourages your day and where God